In today's video, I want to take a little look at the Cyberpunk 2077 sequel. I know this is absolutely insane to start thinking about, considering that The Witcher 4 isn't even out, considering that 2077 is only 3 years old. But evidently there is quite a lot of discussion surrounding Cyberpunk 2077 sequel. What we know of it at the moment is that it has been titled Orion. That is kind of the working title, and that at this point in time it is in its conceptual phase of development. 2024 is going to see development ramped up, and that's when more people are going to begin working on this 2077 sequel. First and foremost, I think this pretty much goes without saying, but Orion cannot release in the same way that 2077 dropped. Guys, think back to 2077's launch, right? The ripe year of 2020, when life was simple, but really not simple, furthest actually from simplicity you could probably find. 2077 dropped and it was a technical mess. It was pretty much unplayable on a whole generation of consoles, so bad that the actual fucking publishers of the console, that being Sir Sony over there, quite literally pulled the game from the stores and offered full refunds to anyone that purchased the game. 2077 will unfortunately go down in history as one of the worst, if not the worst, video game launch in recent memory. Really, the only game that I can think of that comes close to 2077 is No Man's Sky, both in terms of hype, expectation, trust in the development team. It really pains me to say this, but even in its current state, 2077 is still a shell of the game it could have been. Yes, it's technically playable. Yes, we now have police chases. Yes, we have a transmog system, but all of this stuff should have been in the game since day one. I'm not going to complain that it is in the game, but the fact it took 3 years to get a functioning police system in a AAA open world game is fucking embarrassing. I don't care if you guys are sat there with your jaws on the floor thinking that I'm going to bootlick CDPR and 2077, because I'm not. I enjoy the game, I like the universe, and I can appreciate that 2077 has come a fucking mile compared to when it launched. But that's the equivalent of, you know, shitting your pants and then complimenting how quickly you cleaned it up. It doesn't change the fact that the game should have just launched like that in the first place, and I know it's not that goddamn simple, but all I'm trying to say is that this game should have been more. There is still more that can be done, and Phantom Liberty has absolutely shown us that it's fucking possible. Anyway, this is all just a big roundabout way of saying that Orion cannot launch like this. Seriously, could you imagine if the Cyberpunk 2077 sequel came out and it was an exact repeat of how 2077 launched? I truly think CDPR would be out of business. Orion is most likely going to take place in Night City. I mean, the whole kind of shindig of Cyberpunk is Night City. I'm sure you could make a game in the Crystal Palace or some shit if you really wanted to, but would there be any point? Night City is an absolutely fantastic location, and even though I have just bashed CDPR and 2077 for the past 5 minutes, the one thing which I will say is that Night City is an incredible game world, and truly, had this game been more interactive and dynamic, this may be the best open world environment I have ever experienced, hands down. The issue with Night City though is that although it looks incredibly impressive and it's architecturally inspired, and it really does make you feel immersed in a cosmopolitan environment, at the end of the day all of it is essentially smoke and mirrors. This is the one thing I've been saying since 2020, is that Night City and, you know, 2077 in general paints this big grand picture in front of you. You have all of these systems, all of these characters, all of these social connections, and all of them kind of look at you and they kind of give you a little wink, they kind of, you know, kiss their lips and all of this crazy shit. But then when you actually get down to business, when you get down to brass tacks, nothing's really going on. It's an unfair comparison, but you know, you play something like Red Dead Redemption 2, right? This game never ceases to amaze me how dynamic it is. There's probably 1,001 variables going on with this game at any given time. It's not just a pretty picture, it's a dynamic picture. This picture's 3D, goddammit, maybe even 4D. So Orion has to expand upon Night City. Take the map, quite literally take the entirety of 2077's map, import it into Unreal Engine 5 and just expand upon it. Of course, this wouldn't be a Sir MZK video without talking about cut content. CDPR, you need to include things which were cut from the game, such as mega buildings, such as the NCART system, the long list of missing content environmentally, talking about the city itself, is pretty goddamn extensive. More buildings that can be enterable, more activities going on inside of these buildings. Again, to use a really great example, which kind of pains me a little bit, Starfield, right? I did enjoy it, and the one thing which I liked the most about Starfield was being absolutely suffocated with endless opportunities, shitloads of filler content, which I probably would never get round to doing, walking around a town, hearing a conversation in the background, and then picking up a quest as a result of said conversation. That's one of the things which is sorely missed within 2077 and just exploring Night City in general, is that if you don't have a destination, it's very difficult to just stumble across content that is interesting. And picking up 35 NCPD crime scenes isn't as exciting as picking up an actual side quest which has story and dialogue and animation and all of that shit. Alright, moving on. Cyberpunk 2077 was advertised as an RPG, and 2077 does kind of let you roleplay. I mean, if you have a great imagination, then you can absolutely do that. And by that I mean, yeah, you can pick if you want to be a goddamn corpo or a nomad or a street kid, but at the end of the day, does it affect all that much outside of a few dialogue choices? Not overly. This was not the kind of branching story that we were promised in pre-release and E3 footage, trailers, whatever. It was told to us repeatedly that missions would have multiple outcomes. All of the decisions you make in-game will affect everything. A true branching story which just didn't really happen. The game is absolutely interesting in terms of its story, and don't get me wrong, there are times, especially in Phantom Liberty, where you can just outright fail quests for picking the wrong dialogue, but just more of that. It feels so few and far between that the actual kind of role-playing and unpredictable aspect of 2077's story just kind of falls flat. The game is not a role-playing game, and I will stand by this till the end of time. 2077 is a first-person action-adventure game. There's not a lot of role-playing on the go. You can't really be who you want to be because you are tied into this story and you have to behave a certain way. Even one of the things that annoyed me the most was how V had exactly the same voice actor with whatever life path you chose. So you could be, a corpo working in Arasaka, talking like a fucking criminal off the street that steals TVs out of old people's homes. It just didn't really add up to me, little immersion things like that. And maybe the overarching point which I'm trying to make is that even though I enjoyed 2077's story, and I like Keanu Reeves being there, I like Johnny Silverhand, I enjoyed the high stakes plot of the relic, trying to work out what the hell is going on, and this really futile uphill battle to try and save yourself. At the end of the day, I think a pretty low-key story that isn't high stakes, that isn't some kind of James Bond film, would work just as well. The example which a lot of people use is that prologue, which you can find right at the beginning of the game. This little montage of moments where you're with Jackie, working your way up the ranks and trying to get some kind of credibility in the underworld of Night City. This montage looks fun as hell because what are you doing? You're doing petty crime, essentially. Going around, stealing things, robbing things, killing people, going to strip clubs, getting fucked up and drunk, beating up security guards. The stakes don't always have to be high, and that's what I mostly found throughout Cyberpunk 2077, was that I would have probably rathered just a simple story rising to the top, essentially starting out at the bottom, and then having the story and the gameplay fill around that, building up this whole street cred system, making it more dynamic, making it open up some other opportunities, like, I don't know, opening some kind of illicit business, money laundering, or robbing shops. You can't even rob a fucking shop in this game. What's the point of being a street kid if you can't steal money? I would absolutely love for Orion to just take a bit of a step back and just to give us a story which isn't all about being the fucking main character of the entire universe. Maybe for one time I want to feel like any other guy that's just trying to make it by in this huge cosmopolitan city. I don't know, it maybe makes it feel a bit more real, a bit more relatable, and I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. A lot of people play video games to escape, but to me that's what I found the most enjoyment with, going around role-playing in my head as some kind of merc that's just after a bit of cash, you know, spending that cash on some cool weapons, a new car and an apartment. That's living, you know. Take away the illegal part of it, that's what we're all trying to do every day. So in conclusion, Orion should essentially just take the bones of 2077, because there's an absolutely fantastic foundation here. Hell, I would say there's a good game here, absolutely. Take that, don't start from scratch, don't do a goddamn DICE EA fiasco with Battlefield 2042. Take it and build upon it. There is absolutely no reason why, with the amount of time CDPR actually have to make this game, that they can't just keep things realistic, keep things level, and bring out a game which isn't just a pretty face, you know, that has a bit more complexity going on underneath the surface. Hopefully that hasn't made me lose about 200 subs. Cheers for watching, guys. Let me know what you think. As always, do you think I'm chatting a load of shit, or do you agree with me? Let me know, I'm up for an argument. Thanks guys, and as always, I will catch you lot in a bit.